What's perfectly legal but creepy AF? Story 1. In the US, only Idaho explicitly bans cannibalism, which is creepier that the other states don't, or that Idaho had a reason to make it so very clear. Story 2. Sniffing someone's train bus seat right after they get up while making direct eye contact before they get off the train bus. Story 3. Walking the same direction as someone at night. Like, I swear to God, I'm not following you. I just also live this direction too. Answer. As a 69 male, changed by walking routine from 6 to 7 p.m. to 7 and 8 a.m. once I noticed just how many women and children were diverting their walking routines around me, got to the point where I'd be approaching the street I live on, needing to turn right, and someone would be down the street walking towards me, and mentally, I'm going, please don't turn left. Please don't turn left. Story 4. Being irresponsible with pets and animals. Basically, as long as they're not bleeding or starving, you can breed them, abandon them, and ignore them all you want. Answer. Oh man, I dislike this one. I've lived in several different states, and it seems I'm always near some horrible pet owner. One guy had a huge fenced-in yard and he owned a pit bull. Really sweet dog. But he bought one of those plastic igloo doghouse things and chained his dog to it. So the dog had this huge yard that he could only stare at while pinioned with a 6-foot chain. Some teenager would be sent out a couple of times a day to give it food and water. The dog would go nuts, just overjoyed that someone was coming to him. But they'd fill the dishes and return to the house without even really acknowledging him. It broke my heart. I even called animal control, but same thing. Is the dog housed? Got food and water? Well, yes. But then we cannot do anything. These people. Story 5. Public self-care in North Carolina. So long as your male body part isn't visible, you can apparently stroke it in your pants on the sidewalk next to an elementary school for all the cops care. A guy did it at my retail job. We called the cops because he freaked out the cashier girl, and they refused to do anything more than trespass him. Story 6. Using binoculars or a telescope to spy from your property onto another's, as long as you don't violate their privacy, such as watching them undress or go to the bathroom. Answer. I bought a fixed-lens digital camera for the Eclipse with a 60x zoom for $150-170. I was a little bit unnerved on how much I would see of my city just from my front porch. Edit. A lot of interest in the camera. The camera is a Nikon B600. They're going for $200 with accessories. Mine was less because it was just camera and battery only. I bought an Indy 1000 filter for $22, which was needed for everything except totality. I bought a remote but was ultimately unnecessary, as the camera has a moon mode, which applies a timer and aids in framing the same way camera phones with super zoom do. Here's Eclipse pictures and examples of both ends of its optical zoom. Edit 2. It only does 720p, but here's Eclipse video too. Story 7. Kids doing ballroom dance, especially in the very revealing clothing. As a dancer, I do not agree with that at all. Story 8. Eating mayonnaise right out of the jar with your hands and wearing a shirt that says, "Mayonnaise is love." Story 9. Filming people randomly, especially the people who do it just because it's legal. They are the epitome of "you're not wrong, Walter. You're just a jerk." Story 10. Standing across the street from someone's house to stare into windows. The cops can't do anything unless it's a repeated thing. Even then, it's hard for them to intervene if the stalker is on public land, i.e., just outside your property line and not crossing it, or hanging around your building in public areas. Oh, and leaving cameras in public areas of Airbnbs. I know they technically have to tell you, but I know sometimes they just don't. I understand why they're there, but it's still creepy. Story 11. Taking ultra-high-res pictures of a skyline and zooming into people's apartments. Realized this when I was testing out my new camera. Creeps could literally take photos of you changing in your 21st-story apartment, and you'd be none the wiser, and it'd be perfectly legal as it's just look like skyline photos zoomed out a little. Story 12. Leaving a watermelon on someone's doorstep in the middle of the night with a message saying, "You will have a good day," if it's not creepy, it'll certainly occupy a small portion of someone's brain for a bit. Story 13. Someone reposting this question for the millionth time, and me getting deja vu sometimes in this subreddit from all the reposts. Story 14. Pointing security cameras at your neighbor's property. If it's easily visible to the public, technically you're allowed to do it. Story 15. Filming strangers without their knowledge or consent. This guy is buying flowers for his wife. Oh, cute. This person is sitting by themselves. Like everyone says, aw cute, but like it's so creepy? Imagine being filmed and uploaded on social media and it goes viral, and you have no idea that you were ever recorded. Answer. I once saw a Karen post on Reddit, someone saying that she was saving a parking spot or something. And I realized all it was a photo of a random woman. Karen stuff was hot shoot at the time and got the OP a lot of updates. He could have simply made the whole thing up. Yet people in the comments literally wanted to eliminate her, saying they were going to run her over. They called on finding her employer. It was just a fudge picture of an unknown woman. Story 16. Letting those smartphones be equipped with cameras. It's inevitable to use it in our daily life now, and we are all already so used to it. But I sometimes think that it is creepy to be photographed by someone else even when I don't recognize it. Story 17. Age of consent laws in Nigeria have entered the chat. Important edit. Nigeria has an age of consent of 18. I have fallen victim to many sensationalist articles claiming it was 11. Nigeria have been this way inclined since 2003. Story 18. If you have a boy, you can chop off a piece of his male body part if you want to. No regard to how he will feel about it. Circumcisions are creepy as fudge. It blows my mind people think they should have a right to alter someone else's male body part. My body, my choice should apply to everyone. Story 19. The airspace immediately around your home is not protected by law from being infringed upon. Someone can fly a drone right outside your windows, even with a camera, and it's perfectly legal. Story 20. My neighbor always slowing down when he passes my house, knowing exactly who is parked in my driveway at all time, and casually mentioning it when he calls. Story 21. Stalking, apparently. Some years back, I had an ex who didn't take no for an answer after we broke up. They'd just happened to be driving by my neighborhood or other places I went. They kept sending me both loving and hating texts until I blocked their number. Then they changed their number twice to get around being blocked. They got a friend of a friend to add me on social media so they could keep tabs and message me that way. They also borrowed friends' phones to call me in the middle of the night and leave creepy VM, "Hey baby, I'm really tipsy and I'm coming over. Don't pretend you're not." Home. I called some service to get legal advice on what to do, and they told me it didn't rise to the level where cops would get involved or legal action could be taken. Story 22. People on Reddit who spend their lives throwing shade at others instead of trying to improve themselves. Story 23. Standing outside an assisted living home and shouting, "Work it, girl," to all the old ladies who walk in and out. Story 24. Intensive farming. And no, I'm not vegan. Just do a research and see what a horrible life and passing those poor animals get. Story 25. Filming strangers, including minors, in public places. By public places, I mean places where the public has easy and legal access to. According to lawyer Hugo Lord, who analyzed a video he received of a middle-aged man who was caught filming two teenagers who looked like 15 at most, and while he admitted that it was incredibly creepy, said that because you are in a public place, the concept of privacy doesn't apply, and thus, what the man did was legal. The way he said that, though, it was clear that it was a law he didn't agree with, and I'm with him on this one. That man was creepy AF. Now, if the man had been filming up a person's skirt or something, that would have been an entirely different matter. Story 26. Flying a drone over someone's house and recording it. It's legal because you don't own the airspace over your house. Story 27. Grooming is socially unacceptable, but there are plenty of legal ways a predator could do it. A 48-year-old man can have casual conversations with a 16-year-old girl for years and then move to intimacy advances the day she turns 18. He can spend 2 years gaining this less mature person's trust before he springs his trap, and by then, it's too late to do anything about it. Realistically, he did nothing illegal, but it's fudge disgusting that it can legally be done. Keep your kids off the internet, people. Story 28. Buying someone's perfume, spraying it on a pillow, and laying down your head on it to pretend you're laying with them every night. Story 29. Full-grown adults in sunglasses without children who sits on the bench right by the playground only to watch the kids play around all day. Story 30. Taking pictures of someone else. A guy in my hometown took a picture of two girls out for a run and later turned himself in. But the cops couldn't do anything because taking their picture wasn't and still isn't illegal. Story 31. 18-19-year-olds being allowed to do adult content, but if someone is 30 days before 18, they're a child, and quite rightly off limits. Shoot is disgusting. Story 32. In the U.S., stolen valor is legal when not said for material gain. GW's Stolen Valor Act criminalized claiming to have served in the U.S. Armed Forces, but it was overturned by the Supreme Court as protected speech. Obama signed the Stolen Valor Act back into law, bypassing the protected speech argument by making it a federal crime to commit stolen valor for material gain. Story 33. I never heard of the fake marrying dad thing. When a wife is expected to throw herself onto her husband's burning casket if he dies before she does. In India, I think when children are shunned, ridiculed, and feared for genetic conditions, birth defects, when babies are drowned or starved to passing because the parents wanted a different intimacy child, when it is okay to hurt, injure, or eliminate a spouse because they are female, when children are abandoned or mistreated or orphaned or exploited and there is no law stopping it. Story 34. That there are profiles for each of us on who we are, what we respond to, etc. An algorithm built it, but it exists, a file on you. If you found it in someone's drawer, you freak out. Data being harvested and compiled on you, me, each individual. For advertising purposes, as if that's a justification. Story 35. Age of consent. Sure, technically it's legal, but you're still gross and a predator if you're an adult trying to get with a teenager. Story 36. Moving into someone else's home without owner's consent. In many states or countries, you can just move into an empty house. Is it legal? Technically, no. But since they are tenants, they have to be evicted. And it might take a while to get them evicted. I heard here in Romania a case where a lady went to a foreign country for several years, and when she came back, someone moved in her apartment. When she saw them, She immediately called the police. They came, took statements, and said they can't actually do anything to remove them from the apartment. They have to get evicted by a judge. So, they can live in someone else's home for free, unbothered. Story 37. A grown jerk man of any age putting his male body part in a 16-year-old in many countries around the world. Story 38. Getting in an elevator with people in it and facing them, with your back to the door for the whole ride. Story 39. IDK, if it's creepy, but entering an elevator and not turning to face the door makes me think I'm about to be assaulted by a super soldier. Story 40. Anything that has to do with sexualizing children or putting a child through adult things that no child should even be a part of. Few examples: child brides, Edie Gaff, where it's all wrong, child beauty pageants, the age of consent in a lot of states, purity rings, also anti-abortion laws, BC. There are child intimacy assault victims who end up pregnant and far from being ready to be a parent. These are children for the love of all things living. Story 41. Making direct, unbreaking eye contact with the other guy in the elevator for the entire duration of your ride in the elevator. Story 42. In Switzerland, it's legally okay to marry your uncle or aunt because it's only illegal with your direct line. Story 43. One time, I was on the Great Lawn in Central Park, enjoying a nice sunny day. I noticed a guy with a long-range lens in the bushes taking pictures of women laying out in their bathing suits. I have seen similar behavior on private pictures beaches. Just because you can do it doesn't make it cool. Story 44. Paparazzi. They're paid stalkers who sell their content to the highest bidder. In any other form, it would be considered criminal, but because it's rich, famous people, it's okay. Everyone has the right to their own privacy. Story 45. Child marriage. Stalking is very overlooked until some other aggressive crime tragic end happens. Both should end. Story 46. Since it's just come up in our pics again, sending letters of admiration to murderers on passing row, even sending pictures and such. Story 47. Having intimacy with teenagers when you're over the age of 22. Y'all are creeps, and if it was legal to go lower, you probably would. Story 48. Knowing the difference between pedophile and hebephile and highlighting it every time someone is talking about pervs. Story 49. An 18 and a 50-year-old dating. IDK age gaps that large are so creepy to me. Like, they are old enough to be your parent? Story 50. As far as I know, the act of grooming a minor on its own is legal because what constitutes as grooming can be difficult to define. It's only when someone commits the criminal act of pedophilia that grooming can be tacked on as an extra charge. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, though. I don't necessarily know enough about this kind of thing because I'm not exactly Googling those kind of legalities. Answer. It's not a crime to look up the statutes in your state, and technically, pedophilia isn't a crime. It isn't really possible to make it illegal to have a psychiatric condition. Plus, how do you prove what someone is thinking? But molesting children is a crime. Knowing that will make it a bit easier to find the statutes, laws, if you ever try looking them up. I can't answer your question, though. It probably is a crime in most places, but it's difficult to prove, maybe like how it's hard to prosecute cases of conspiracy to commit. Story 51. The Philippines' age of consent of 12 years old really cringe. And the saddest and scariest part is that the locals don't even know that. That's why if my kids want to go to the Philippines, I'll be like, when you turn 18. Story 52. In America, anyone can record you or take photos of you and your family out in public without your consent. Story 53. Forcing young kids to hug and kiss their older relatives. I grew up with a dad who thought that it was my inalienable duty to give my chain-smoking, alcoholic, cursing, lewd, dirty old man of a grandfather a hug and a kiss every time we saw him, and I was given no choice. I guess it was important for me to know early that my body was there for the service of others. Story 54. Age-generated CP and deepfake adult content. Also, the majority of adult content on the internet TBH. I've heard a recent theory is that the normalization of the objectification, degradation, dehumanization of women in adult content is so popular because many men enjoy sexualizing gender inequality. Bonus, the fact that you can watch adult content in public libraries. Story 55. You can have intimacy with a teenager at 16 in Alabama completely legal, but as soon as they send you a pornographic photo while they are still 16, you get charged. Shoot weird as fudge. Story 56. You can actually go to jail if you say you want to marry with one person and suddenly tell them that you don't wanna. Some people abuse this as a sort of revenge to people who dump them. Story 57. Reading people's credit card to get their name and saying their full name when you hand them their food in the driveway. Story 58. If you rub 2 spoons together and then hold them inches away from a baby's head, people will get angry. Story 59. Any relationship with a 15-year age gap between the couple, having children in your 40s as a woman and 50s as a man, having multiple children more than 15 years apart. Story 60. Buying another company, transferring all your debts onto the division that used to be the separate company while stripping out anything of value from it, then splitting it off into its own company again and declaring bankruptcy. Also, buying the company that makes the EpiPen, raising the price to something outrageous, while paying lobbyists to get laws passed that require an EpiPen in every school. Story 61. Going to vacationing in Mexico, or one of the 5 other countries, then effing animals since it's legal. Doing same stuff with relative in France, Rhode Island, etc. It's a way longer list. Story 62. Cannibalism, in some states and countries at least. If you eliminate someone and eat them, you'll be done for takedown. But if you somehow require human meat and eat it, no eliminate. Get caught, I believe you still get charged, but more for desecration of a body. Please add to this comment if I'm wrong or missed something. Story 63. Dating an 18-year-old when you're over 25-30, but especially people who are like 40-50 who do it, it's so weird. Story 64. The age of consent being 16 in the UK, which isn't bad when you consider most will just be teens with teens, but it gets creepy when you realize it's perfectly legal for a 50-year-old to shag a 16-year-old. Story 65. In Australia, here in Queensland, it's legal to marry your first cousin. Why the fudge that the case is beyond me. Story 66. Rifling, though someone's rubbish. As long as the bin is on public land and not on your property, there's not much that can be done. Story 67. Naming your cat Fire and then yelling its name at the top of your lungs while you try and find it in the apartment building hallways. Story 68. It's legal for someone to sell strands of their public hair, used unwashed panties, and jars of their farts online. I try not to kink shame, but seriously,